Hello friend. How are you?
I'm good, Maddie. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Welcome to another episode of the Reality Roundup. Today's menu item is the challenge. Um, remember to like, comment, subscribe to an up and coming, not struggling, Black podcast. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. What are we doing today? Why don't you start us off?
We are, oh my gosh. I mean, we're going to talk about this episode of the challenge, which is episode 8.
Yes.
Oh
Do you
my
know the
gosh,
name of
yeah.
the episode?
I never know the name of the
Oh,
episode.
okay. This episode was called "The Era of the Gladiator."
And we'll talk about product placement at some point.
It happens every year. Every year there's some Hollywood action movie that's coming out, and they're a sponsor of the challenge, and we have to have an entire challenge dedicated to them. I will say they're usually like weak challenges. This one was fun. I liked this entire
Oh.
episode. I liked the challenge and I liked the elimination. What were your thoughts, initial impressions of that episode?
Um, I my very first, well, actually, I should pull up my notes, but my very first thought was that Corey was unreasonably angry for the whole episode.
Really?
Um,
I was liking Corey's energy all day.
I just felt, well, I shouldn't say unreasonably angry. That's not fair. But I was just kind of like, oh, okay, like I don't know what this is doing. And then he like immediately deflated at the end. And I was like, oh, okay. Other than that, uh,
You froze for me.
for over the course of the episode is because I was like all of a
You
sudden,
froze for me. At
oh,
other than that, you froze.
oh, okay. Well, other than that, the only thing that really like top line kind of confused me at first, but then like went along with the narrative was like initially I was very confused about all this era 2 and 3 like chatter about like forming an alliance because I was like I thought we were clearly 3 and 4, and then that was part of the whole entire plot of the episode was the kind of weird confusion and around who's aligning with who.
Yeah, I think we saw that later on that when Josh and Corey kind of get into it where Corey and the rest of Era 3, especially the rest of the Vacation Alliance from Era 3 are frustrated that it doesn't seem like Era 4 actually has Era three's back.
Hmm.
And they're supposed to be working together, and we know that Era 4 really doesn't have Era three's back.
Yeah.
But Avery and Derek Chavez are linked. So then Era 2 and Era 3 just kind of pretend like no, they actually don't. Era 4 uses that instance that happened on the first elimination where Avery stalemated the nomination. They use that
Mm.
as a way to kind of be like, see, you guys are working together, when it's like, no, clearly y'all were supposed to be working together, and you keep backstabbing these people in the back.
I was
For
kind of
whatever.
confused.
Yeah. Well, we started the episode today with just Rachel and Derek from Era One, just coming together and licking their wounds and being very optimistic about
They
about,
were.
about the upcoming challenge. Casey, what's up with the Jenny hate, bruh?
Oh, I was like
Like,
really
I started
baffled.
like I was watching this. I was like, Casey, is it because she beat you on Total Madness? Like, because
Oh,
this is
that's something
like
I don't know.
this doesn't make any sense to me. Why Casey never speaks in the episode. We never hear from her. There are people fighting all the time around her, and Casey has nothing to say
In
ever.
fact, later on in this very episode, when Corey and Josh are going about it and it involves Casey, Casey is clearly standing
Like,
in the back, not saying anything at all.
silence. But guys, Cash shit to talk in in the confessionals, and half of the time it's about Jenny. What's going on? It's because she beat you on Total Madness, my G. Like, what is going on? That's
That
not her
can't be
fault
it.
that you can't do seventh grade math.
Oh, well, fair enough.
Stuck in the snow, adding up on the board. Couldn't do the math problem. That's why you lost.
I literally wrote Casey, please, because I was very confused about all of this like energy. I was like, this seems to be doing a whole
I don't get
bunch.
it. It seems like hater energy. I feel like Casey and Jenny, like, by the way, have the same amount of finals wins at one apiece, but Casey has done twice as many challenges and is always much more better insulated than Jenny anyway. I feel like there's some hateration.
Yeah, because like her problem with Jenny in the confessional was that Jenny complains a lot about not having alliances, but I
Yeah.
was just kind of like, what does that have to do with you?
Yeah, seriously. It's crazy. I don't know why they're including it. They must go into an elimination later on.
Yeah,
They
that was
they
my
must
thought.
they must like go head to head later on in the season because they keep, this is like the third time we didn't seen Casey talking about Jenny like in a and we've never seen Jenny talking mess about Casey. So
No,
Casey has to initiate some sort of something against Jenny because it seems like she's really annoyed with Jenny, despite the fact
that
Jenny's
was my
probably
thought.
a
I was like, this has to be some sort of storyline where we haven't seen playing out yet, played out.
um we see Nehemiah and Corey talk game. And then that's also
Mm.
where this like era two, era three alliance narrative is coming from. When really it's just that Nehemiah, who also doesn't have a lot of relationships on the later eras, but has a relationship with Corey and Naya, because he, I think Naya was on the season of All Stars with him. Bananas and Laurel kind of antagonizing Ryan a little bit. We get Laurel's perspective on why her and Ryan's friendship fell apart. Didn't really care.
Yeah, I didn't hear
Um,
about that. And then I was also like, I did write that Laurel to me when she was talking about Cara Maria being a target or something like that. She was like, I'm gonna like have her back or like
is
something
this
in
is in
this
the
way.
challenge, right?
I think I have it
Yeah,
written.
this was in the challenge. So,
Oh
oh,
yes, I have it written in the challenge section. Sorry.
so the challenge. I mean, that's where we are anyway. I just want to give the back the rules. The challenge for this episode was called Battle for Honor.
Hmm.
But it was a really good challenge. I mean, it's not like we've seen this challenge before on other seasons. We've seen it in multiple different ways. We've seen it with people up on floating platforms like 20 feet above the water, and then you're pushing your opponents into the water. We saw it as I think on Battle for of the challengers or something like whatever one where they were pretending like there were no champions there and then the OGs came in later. We saw it as a battle back as a battle back into the game on a platform where I think Tony and Leroy both kind of felt like. So I like this. So essentially in the challenge they have large, every person has large shield. All of it's played in 2 rounds of 15 minutes. All of the women play 1 round together, and then all of the men play 1 round together. Each person has a shield that's probably about 6 feet tall, and they
Mhm.
just kind of use it to push each other off of this like dirt platform into the water. If you fall into the water, you're eliminated. The era that has the most players remaining, men plus women, at the end of the 2 rounds wins.
Which, okay, first thing, a thing that I forgot to say was, I feel like the architecture that they are doing in the Vietnamese jungle is crazy. I was like, when we got to this challenge, I was like, was this naturally shaped like this, or did y'all make this?
It
Because
looks
this
like
seems very specific.
it looks like it may have been like, have you ever seen like those like rice farming like villages and stuff?
Very fair,
Yeah,
yes.
so some of this might have been there, and then they just kind of, but they do build a lot. Like they travel,
Mhm.
they build entire. We see this all the time, all over the world, where they'll they'll build like massive structures over water for whatever rope jungles and rope courses.
Mhm.
Like they'll bring in semi trucks or whatever. They must be doing
Remember when
something
they
right.
came out of that truck at the beginning of the
Yeah,
season?
they're in a truck. They're in a truck next week too. If you saw the preview.
Oh yes, yes, they are. Oh, oof.
What do you think about the challenge?
I was one of the things that like weird, like, completely irrelevant, but like kind of bothered me was like the rope like that they used to like section off the things. I was like, please pick up that rope before they start doing this. And then I was just kind of confused. Like I was like I think I was thinking too hard about like the strategy of it because like everyone just kind of like pushed together in the middle. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, my automatic thinking would be that I would like run at somebody and like try to like push them away. And so I was like kind of confused that everybody was just
Yeah,
like
bad
in the
strategy all
middle.
around. Nobody was using their
Yeah.
brains on this one except for Derek, who was hiding. Which I
And
think
Tori,
like
who was hiding at some point.
yeah, like yeah, nobody was using their brains on this, but it was still very fun. I like
It
the
was fun.
violence, I like the hitting,
I bet
I
you
like
do.
the physicality. So, it was fun to watch, but it seemed like the eras that wanted to work together could never quite get on the same page. Like even the like why Cara Maria, Laurel, Aviv, Rachel, like why all four of them couldn't get Tori off of that platform didn't make sense to me.
I was
But
confused.
it
And
just,
then
I
in
don't know
the
if Aviv or Rachel, because I never saw Aviv or Rachel actually go over there to try to help Kara take Tori out. Because for Rachel, it makes sense. If Tori gets out, Era 3 loses all their players, they automatically go in. And then you and Derek have to get voted in. But Era 4 won today, they probably wouldn't have voted you guys in. So, like, it just seemed like maybe Rachel like lost sight of that, and she was just like, "I'm gonna get here and hit some girls and like do it for Era One, do it for the old school." And I'm like, no,
yeah.
you're like your best bet at being safe is to make sure somebody else is in the last place, especially because you and Derek only have two people, so like
That's
y'all are
what
already
confused me.
at a massive disadvantage. Yeah, I mean they were at
What
a huge disadvantage today. Their only bet was to like work with an Era to in either one of the rounds eliminate all of the women or eliminate all of the men in either round.
yeah, I was like really confused by the the numbers dynamic in this episode, both in the
Yeah,
challenge and the elimination, because like if like wouldn't Air One automatically lose? Like no matter what, at least in the
yeah,
challenge.
yeah.
That I was confused.
Like it didn't make sense to me either. I don't know if maybe if there was like a rule that like if Aaron one and Derek, I mean if Derek and Rachel were both left, then they essentially started with their whole group. But there isn't, right? Um,
I was so confused.
so yeah, like I don't know. People weren't thinking, but they were hitting, and I like that. That was at least fun. It was exciting to
Valid.
watch.
hmm Yes, I loved when all of the because the men went first, like, and so when they were standing up there all cleaned up and like bandaged up, I was like, y'all really had a time with this.
Well, this is what I want to talk about. When that deal with Theo, when Corey and Devin
Yes.
offered Theo the deal to, hey, let's just, we'll lose it, and if you guys win, don't throw us in, right? Basically, throw in whoever else we're in chambers with, and Theo refuses.
Okay, that's what I like. I did not understand because, as you know, I'm a one pass girly. So I did not understand what was happening. But then until the very end, when Theo was like, I literally already made an alliance and I'm not gonna, I don't know what he said exactly, but throw somebody else or break the alliance or something like
Yeah.
that.
And so
I was very confused.
this is really what like kind of starts the breakdown of relationship between Era 4 and Era 3 because Era 3 is like, hey, you guys are supposed to we've talked about this 4 eliminations ago about the pair of us, our two eras getting on the same page and working together to basically save each other every week if one of us win every time one of us wins as a way to kind of battle it out at the end. We're the two strongest eras. Like we're winning the most challenges. Let's not like take shots at each other and let one of these people get to the end and then we basically are taking each other out for their benefit. We're the two strongest eras. Let's just work together, keep each other safe, and then we'll battle it out at the end and let the best era win. Which makes sense from both of their positions. But you know what? It doesn't. It makes sense from a group dynamic perspective. But if you are a player like Theo or a player like Jenny, like that's the danger
Mhm.
of like when you're in Era 4, just throwing a target on Jenny. She really doesn't have a lot of relationships. She is always forced to be in a position to work with some unconventional allies that might not be in the best interest of your team as well too. So I understand it from Theo and Jenny's perspective. Like they don't have in the individual ward of a bunch of people that are going, yeah, we'll save you. No,
Yeah.
not we. I'll save you. Forget my error. Like I got your back. If I have power, you're good. And
Yeah.
so I understand why Jenny and Theo are trying to like deal and cultivate those relationships. I also understand why Corey was frustrated because it's like, hey, we're supposed to be working together. We've already saved you guys a few times. The last time y'all had an opportunity to save me when I was in, y'all threw me in to save Bananas, who you're supposedly not working with, and then et cetera, et cetera. I thought Derek
Yes.
actually did too much because Corey is frustrated and just kind of like talking generally about like, okay, so I see deals are
Era one,
being
Derek.
made. Error one Derek, yes, Derek K. Like I feel like he was doing too much. And never mind. I got distracted by something. It's like shut your
I
like
was like,
literally like just shut your mouth. And then like you're inciting him to a fight like while he's walking away, throwing the thing at him. It was a little too much. It was a little too much. And I usually like Derek on this.
I was, yeah, I was just kind of like, eh. And then it really upset Corey, obviously, and he continues. I didn't really get Corey's argument of like, basically, like, I took it easy on you, old man, like, which is a SpongeBob quote. But I was just kind of like, yay, did you take it easy on him? Because it really does seem like
I mean,
you,
yeah, he could have.
like,
He pushed him. He's strong, but like he,
yeah, I
I
was like,
believe him when he's. I don't know that that matters. Whether he took mercy, it's in the game. Like he can like, it's
yeah,
in the
I
game
was
for me
like,
to hit you.
it just seemed like from tip to tail, the whole entire
Tip
kerfuffle
to
was
tail.
pointless. Tip to tail is my phrase of the week. Well, 3 weeks. But yeah, from tip to tail, I was like, this is, y'all are doing a lot. And then they got very emotional at the end of the episode with each other. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, when we get back into the house, you want to talk about chambers? This is one of
Uh,
the more exciting chambers, I think, because there's actually like real um, complications here with the voting, but then with the people that are up, because it's all like Kara called it out. It's all of the people that are like untethered. It's all of the people
yeah.
that aren't here with like an alliance, a group like having their back.
Yeah, like
And
the
so now
Vacation
they all
Alliance.
come. And in an ideal world, these would be all of the people that would be working together across eras to kind of like challenge those like larger, more entrenched group dynamics. But now they're all forced to kind of like pick at each other.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
then just the idea of like how much contention there was between like Derek and Corey in this.
It was, I thought it was interesting that Corey went last to speak. It was, to me, it wasn't like it was more of like a substantive chambers, if that makes sense. Like I
Hmm.
wasn't like, oh my God, all the drama, but I was like, okay, like we're actually having like some, like people are saying actual words instead of just kind of being like saying nothing, which I feel like happens a lot. But one thing that just made me kind of giggle was I think Cara in her confessional said something about like making an alliance with Theo or like having Theo's back or something like that, despite his problems with Polly. And I was like, she said, Polly is not here anymore, and I have to be here,
Well,
and I
yeah,
don't care what
this
happened.
is what I said in episode 1 when Polly was like doing all of that. I was like, that was like I think I did mention this in the first time that we filmed and talked about the show. It felt flat to me because that beef was so old, and Kara and
Yeah.
Theo have worked together since
Hmm.
then, like in other challenges that happened. I'm pretty sure, right? Like Kara and Theo were where Theo's only done like 2 seasons before this. Yeah, okay. So it did happen in the second season, but Kara and Theo worked together in that first season. They've worked together since, and they seem like they've always had a good working relationship. Um,
Hmm.
was he on the World Championship? I believe he was. I
I
think
feel like
that's
since
I think
Polly
that's where they were.
left,
I think that's where they work together as well too.
to, I feel like since Polly left, at least to what we've seen, obviously, I feel like Theo's just pretty chill. Like him,
Theo
even
was
his
never
like,
the drama. Paulie was. I feel like Paulie was trying to get TV time. That's why I was like thoroughly unentertained by that. Like Paulie was
that's fair.
talking about beef from shoot, I don't know. When was War of the Worlds? Like
I don't know the
a
answers to
while
any of
ago.
these.
Like a while ago is the point. Paulie was talking about old beef that like I'm sure he probably wasn't like emotionally still right, and he was talking about old beef in defense of Kara, who has since worked with Theo and has
That's
always been
exactly
like
my
and
point.
has
Yeah.
like had Theo's back and he's had her back. So it's if they've gotten over it, I don't understand. Like I don't know. I didn't really care. I didn't really care about this. But I thought Carter made a good point, and she was like, hey, like I want to like do this, da 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 da. And she was even talking about it before. The reason why I think is good because we saw her talk about it before the chambers even happened, where she was like, I want to like win because I want to be able to protect Theo and show that I have his back, and then hopefully
That's
like
exactly
solidify
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, well, I wrote my notes for the chambers, like from chambers to the elimination. So this did not happen in chambers. But I did write Casey is low-key a bitch. because I was like, not a bitch like being mean, but a bitch like being kind of just like sneaky and hidden in the corner. So I was like,
Oh,
oh,
okay. Oh yeah,
when
well,
the
Chambers is over, so before
yeah.
after Chambers, Era 4 holds a meeting. This was so
The
this was
Brit, I
so
called it
fun.
the Brits are scheming.
Yeah, right.
Yes. They really were. Like they were out here. It was very much
I mean, it was
like
very transparent, but it was thoroughly entertaining.
it
Like
was funny.
listen to Theo run it down. Do you want to explain what happened?
So I just thought it was a good old giggle and a quack because the Brits, so they essentially wanted cover for their decision. And so they kind of like play, I think Theo says literally that they like played up certain facts to
Mm-hmm.
to the
And
sham
omitted
of
others.
yeah, to the sham of the group meeting, in order to kind of like get the group to make this decision that they wanted to
Yeah,
play, but like give them a social political cover for it. And it like
it,
kind
it worked.
of
It worked.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Somebody
like,
figures it out. Was it?
I was like, this is a great move. Like,
I think the Brits were scheming.
this was
Yeah.
a very smart move. Like Theo, the way Theo explained it, he was like, you know, well, I mean, we see Michelle kind of clock it immediately, um,
That's what I'm talking about.
but like, but it's a great way. Like he comes into this team meeting and he's like, hey, like I know we're supposed to have an alliance with Era 3, but like they're like really mean and like they were hitting
They're
me
like
in the
really
challenge.
mean.
He's like, they were hitting me in the challenge where we were all like asked explicitly to hit each other. And I just felt like every time I turned around, Corey was there, like trying to like take me
He
out, even
he
though
was being
Corey's on the
mean to
line.
me. Yes.
And he's like, and then you should have seen them in Chambers. Anyway, and like
That was so funny.
the best part was like as he's like talking about this, Kylan's face is just like, Kylan's like, hold it together because Kylan also clocks it immediately too. He's like,
Yeah.
so I feel like going forward, it's just best to like save Era 2, which we know Era 2 has Car on it. Car is probably again the only woman in the house likely other than Olivia that would save Theo before any other
Hmm.
man on the Era
Hmm.
4 squad, right? He's so, and
I keep forgetting about Olivia.
you're right. So it was just like really funny. But what was interesting to me is so we had Michelle and Kyland, who were the two that wanted to vote in Era 2 and save Era 3, and the other five from Era 4. So Theo, Olivia, Casey, Josh, and Jenny. Jenny, yeah, because
Yes.
Jenny concocted the plan with Theo. Wanted to send in Era 3. I, what I was confused on was Kylan and Michelle both saying, well, if Casey and Josh would have just flipped their votes, oh, I guess it would have been 4-3. Then I wasn't thinking. I was like, don't you still need 5 votes? Yeah, no, you only need 4 votes to have a majority.
Yeah.
Okay, that made sense. Because I
Yeah.
was like thinking, I was like,
Oh
are
yeah, they
they?
have 7 people. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I was like,
I was
what?
thinking, I was like, are you suggesting that like if Casey and Josh flipped their votes, that a third person would have just flipped along with them, and if so, who? And they never. Okay, I just did
No.
the math, and they had 7 people.
That's okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, that's not like as big as a point, but it is good to note because Casey and Josh, who are part of the Vacation Alliance and who have been sort of most vocal, at well, Josh at
I was like, Casey's not vocal at
yeah,
all. That's the
Josh
problem.
Josh has been one of the more vocal ones of with the game plan of like, hey, Era 3 and Era 4 should be aligned. And I will say that when he was most vocal about this, it was the times where Devin and Tori were. It was specifically a time where Tori was on the line. So
Well,
that makes sense.
duh.
That makes sense as well too. But at the time, I just assumed he just meant that, like in general. And we know that the reason they wanted to work together is because Tori and Devin are on that crew, and that's supposed to be the Vacation Alliance. But they keep taking shot at their teammates, or their alliance mates' teammates.
Yeah.
Do you have? Oh, the fight. Do you want to talk about the fight? I was about to skip. I thought
I
old Josh was coming back. I was excited. I was like, dang, I missed you.
what I wrote was not all the black people arguing. Like that is literally, well, the black man arguing because I was just like, okay, we're screaming and we're hooting and we're hollering about this, and I it felt like Josh was just it felt like to me that Josh knew that he was in the wrong, and
Mhm.
so he was just yelling
Yeah.
to yell. And
That's
that
Martinez, baby. That's how we do it. Classic Josh.
side note, I cannot stop hyper focusing on his hairline
Oh
ever
yeah,
since you
he's
said something.
thinning. I am happy that it's not in braids because it's more way more prominent when he has his hair
Yes.
braided. But yeah, he's thin and he's aging. It's all good, Josh.
But I was that's actually one of my only thoughts about Josh because he was just yelling because he was clearly aware in that moment that he had his
Yeah.
back against the wall or that he was found out and that Corey was really upset.
It,
I'm just glad they didn't come to blows
if
because I would have been like, that's too much.
if like and this is one of those things where Theo and Jenny played this so well. Like going to Corey, going to Avery and the rest of the Era 3 and being like, the way we make decisions as a group is that we bring it to a vote. And I was like, this is the first time I've seen y'all actually hold a vote. Stop. We bring it to a vote and we brought it to a vote and,
In fact, nobody's really good at voting this
and
season.
it was 5-2, and we weren't in the two because the truth is also Theo and Jenny's two votes could have also swung things the other way, but like
Yes,
they escaped like all culpability. They're like, you guys only had two votes to save you. Five, it was 5-2. I'm so sorry. We wish something else could have worked out. Yeah, y'all could have just voted. Y'all could have just voted to save them.
that was so funny. I
And
love the scheming.
yeah, it was good. I think it'll be fun now that Era 3 seems now that multiple people on Era 3 seem like they're motivated to actually take shots at Era 4.
Hmm.
I think it'll be I think hopefully they don't all this is not all for show and they just resolve it because it's Tori and Devin on the line next week, but
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun now to see those two kind of going at each other or to just even kind of see both of those eras in for elimination rounds against each other.
Yes. I have written Jordan shut up in all caps,
Probably
but
because you
I
were defending Derek. Jordan was spitting. It was at the challenge where he was like, "Derek, you should have just said it to his face. Be a man, bro."
oh, thank you, thank you. Because I was like, why did I write that? Because
Yeah,
it's like my
I like
last
that.
note before the
Yeah,
elimination.
yeah, I like that from Jordan. Like, yeah.
I was just
What else do you have to
I was
say?
just like, be quiet. That's it for Chambers and the after of Chambers for me. Next up is the elimination.
Okay. What's the elimination, Maddie?
I did not write the full title. I just wrote Fate. And
Fate
then
of the Gladiators. We didn't even talk about the promo, but that's for the best. That's for the
okay,
best.
fair enough. I wrote with heart eyes emoji. This is a silly challenge because I I wanted like a silly challenge. I mean, it gets very aggressive, but like to me, it was like a silly challenge
Yeah.
with like with out of all the things that they could have chosen to like make somebody's feet squeak, choosing to literally put rubber ducks on a or not rubber
Rubber
ducks,
chickens.
rubber chickens on the shoe. I was like, this is
It's
silly.
a
You are
it's
being so
a
silly.
it's a bit of an Easter egg. It's a the challenge we're a rubber chicken type of show. One of the earliest seasons of the challenge. I don't remember. Maybe Battle of the Seasons.
You know
Maybe
what I
like
know?
old school Battle of the Seasons. Was had people like dressed in like chicken costumes and like bobbing. Like we've done chickens a lot. We've done a lot of like challenges that included like those like basically those yellow like rubber chickens that like spin.
Yeah. I
So
loved
it
it.
was a
I
big part of
loved the bells on the thing. I loved at first, fully recognizing that I had taken an edible. I was very confused as to why there was garlic on everyone. Like
that.
I was like, why is there
All right,
garlic? And
let me just explain the rule then. So
yes.
the elimination
Yes.
round was Fate of the Gladiators, and basically, it was played obviously guys versus guys and ladies versus ladies,
Mhm.
where each person would take a turn as either a striker or an invader. The striker was armed with boxing gloves and
Mm.
had their eyes blindfolded, and they basically had to like strike their opponent, find their opponent in the ring, strike them, and to explode these like those little like popping firecrackers or whatever that would make
Mhm. Mhm.
that let out colored powder. And then the evader had their body and their armor covered in those like 20 of those, I think. 16.
I- mm,
16.
Something like that. Was it not? I thought it was 19. Why did I think it was 19?
Well, somewhere between there.
Yes.
And that person, their armor was also covered in bells, and they had rubber chickens taped to the soles of their shoes so that every time they moved, they would squeak and make noise because their opponent was blindfolded. So it was really, really fun.
It was really, really fun.
More
Um,
entertaining than I expected.
it was between this and the Battle for Honor, this was my favorite thing this episode. My first thing that I wrote was Avery, what the F move? Because
Yeah.
I was like, why are we not moving? Like she just wouldn't move. And I was so concerned and so confused at some point in time.
I
I
think
think every
she'd get scared every time she'd make a noise and like Rachel would react. But it's like if you move
um,
faster than her, it doesn't really matter.
yeah, like um you can reduce the effect of the noise if you're just making a lot of noise,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're just like moving and bobbing and weaving, but Avery just was standing still and it
Avery
really
had no hands and she wasn't blocking. Like she was literally just standing hands down and like
yes.
fainting and then coming back and fainting and coming back. I'm like, you can see her punches coming. At least like move them out of the way. Like,
Yeah, like very much so. And then on top of that situation, because Rachel was actually hitting her, I was
yeah,
like, girl,
Rachel.
don't you want to move out of the way because you're getting your
I thought
crap
I thought
rocked?
Avery was going to be bleeding like when they showed her, even though she did have headgear. Like there were like a couple of shots where Rachel just went right
Right
through that
here.
headgear and hit her
Yeah.
right in the nose or the chin.
Yeah.
And then Rachel
I
sitting here
was
talking about I used to go to karate tournaments when I was 9 years old.
like, was that 9 years old energy, Rachel? Because that was, I did this last week energy. You
uh,
came at this woman.
it was crazy. It was fun.
It was so fun.
Rachel looked good all episode actually.
She did. She did.
Um,
I felt like the second person to box to be the, I don't remember what the titles were, was at a disadvantage because like you got your bell rung and then you had to box
I mean,
versus like
especially if you're Avery. Yeah, I thought about this
yeah,
too.
that's
Like when I
fair.
was watching Avery's round, I thought like she may have been fatigued because even though you're wearing like guards, if you're taking punches to the stomach repeatedly, like you're gonna be winded. I don't know how much time was in between each round to reset, but that's what I thought about when I was watching
Yeah.
Avery. And then on the guy side, I actually thought the opposite, and I was like Corey, because Corey was really angry at Derek, so he was just flailing through their entire match. And then like his point where he had to defend, like he didn't really move a lot either. Despite
Mhm.
Derek didn't move a lot because he was injured, but Corey seemed like he didn't move a lot because he was just hurt, right? Because he just
Yeah.
spent so much energy throwing punches.
Yeah.
So I guess in that way, it's like even if you don't conserve your energy as the hitter, you could be too tired to defend yourself properly.
Yeah, which
And
would be a strategy, I guess, that you would have to think of in the moment
yeah,
too. And then I completely apropos of nothing before we talk about the men or before we talk about the results. I like the red powder more. It was just like a lot more like dynamic when people were getting hit. Like not that it reminded me of blood or anything like that, but I
it
was
did
like
when it hit Avery in the face. I did like
poor Avery. Oh my God, that poor girl. It
like
it just was like
it's
very
like she
dynamic.
because Rachel had the red powder, but like she splashed it
Hmm.
and it hit her in the face and it
Hmm.
got on her thing. I thought she looked like she was winning.
Yeah. Upon retrospect, that probably wasn't the best idea in terms of if somebody actually got hurt. Being able to tell like where the blood and the powder was, probably not. But it is what it
Oh,
is.
okay, I get what you're saying.
Yes.
Any thoughts on the men or any other thoughts?
No, I was just as for the last ever since what the balloons, consistently worried about the fact that Derek does not seem to be receiving adequate medical care for whatever
I
is
think he's
going on
probably
with his
receiving
leg.
great medical care. Like, but if your leg is hurt, your leg is hurt. Like it's
That's
gonna
fair.
impact your mobility.
That's fair.
Um, he wouldn't be in the show if he wasn't. Like we sent people home for falling too hard in the water, even though they're like still good
Fair
and up
enough.
and breathing. Like MTV is gonna exercise like a high level of caution. They don't want to be sued by these people. Like at the
Which
end
is,
of the day.
I was gonna say something about ridiculousness. Um, Corey, oh, I wrote Corey and Derek made up, which was nice. And then I just wrote Rach in all caps because her face when TJ was like, reading the amount of targets, and he was like, Rachel, you hit all of the targets. And she was like, ah, and I was like, oh my God, it's like good for you. And then was this an established rule at the beginning that time would matter if you hit
Yeah,
okay all the
the
targets?
time aspect.
Yes.
Oh yes, I think it was mentioned before the round started, but I assumed it would be. I I didn't think Derek was gonna get. Oh, this is what I was saying. I didn't think Derek was gonna get all of Corey's targets, but the second that he did, I was like, oh, they're tied. Like obviously the tiebreaker is gonna be who did it the fastest.
Okay, fair
Um,
enough.
yeah, and I this is the perfect opportunity to cheat Corey and keep Derek in the game. Production. I was the whole time I was like, because
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
when Derek was like doing this, I was like, when he like got everything, I think he had like at one point, I think I saw like a minute 10, and I think by the time he finished, there was like maybe 55 or 50 something seconds left on the clock. I was like, Corey did it with like, I feel like Corey got all those targets with like almost 2.5 or 3 minutes still on the clock. In my mind, I was just kind of thinking, I was like, did I see that? Because I didn't go back and check, but it's like, did I see that correctly? Like, I mean, that's all edited. Like they can splice that
Hmm.
together. But in my mind, I was,
Question.
mm-hmm.
D- How duh Video Village and like filming and all that jazz. But is it wrong for me to say that it would be difficult to know like who got all of the targets the
Re
fastest?
replay. So they'll have a
Well,
clock.
yes, but like but
They'll check the
like you're
camera.
not stopping and checking. So like,
They'll check. They'll no. They'll go and this is what I'm saying. Like there's multiple. This is why I'm frustrated with the way eliminations are presented and chopped up, and that we don't get like more full sequences, because there's multiple camera angles specifically for these sorts of things. Because we've seen it. Like I don't know. There have been multiple. There have been hall brawls, like multiple elimination rounds where they were so close that they would go, like in the past, they would go to camera and then they would bring us into that process as the audience and be
oh,
like here's clip for clip, here's how we're keeping track of the time, here's the different angles, and we're like they're pointing it out on camera to us. I'm like, this is how we maintain a standard of fairness. This is how we know this person won. This is why I feel like they do a lot more sneaky stuff now because we don't get that any
well, then
longer.
my follow-up question is, do you think maybe they did what you thought that they could have done for Derek for Corey?
No, I don't think they would do it for Corey because I think like one, Derek, legacy act, beloved by MTV. Corey is also beloved by MTV from the fact that they have him on three different MTV shows, but um but like Derek, like from the challenge like production team, much more beloved. Much more beloved by the fans too, probably like much more storied career. He's in a position where he's the last man remaining of his era, in a season called Battle of the Eras from, and he's a road ruler from the flagship like program that birthed the challenge. Like there's so much story there, and
Mhm.
just so much like, yeah, there's so much history, and there's much more like brevity to his win in
Mhm.
this moment, especially because Corey's angry, he's talking shit, he's acting up, like he's fighting people. It would have been the perfect moment, like, for him to get humbled and
Yeah.
sent home by the challenge OG, like hobbling on one leg, like, oh, what an amazing moment. Like
Mhm.
this is half of Derek's highlights, is like, look at Derek, so small, so undersized, facing off against
So
Cyrus,
small is
facing off.
crazy.
No, I mean seriously. Like even today, they showed that clip of him on Cutthroat going against the three guys. I think
Oh,
it
yes.
was like Evan and a few other people, and it's like, here's Derek Kaczynski, odds stacked against him, just the same way they edited him versus Mark in the beginning. It's like he has the smaller stat. Every Derek elimination is like, look at him, so small but so much heart, so big, so powerful in the heart, like
It's giving a little engine that
the
could.
little engine that could. That's what he is. He's the
Mhm.
pit bull. He's the little engine that could. He's the guy who defies all the odds and is able to win against these much larger opponents in these like, I mean, in these really amazing challenge moments. Some of my favorite challenge moments have been Derek moments, but
I love it. I'm just continuously worried about like Rachel and not Rachel like physically, but like Rachel in terms of like the dynamics of numbers of these games. Like, did they actually plan for there to be a time
it's
where there
time.
might only,
It seems like they did.
yeah,
Um, just based on the way, like TJ has this thing where he loves to like catch them off guard, shock them, keep them on their toes, keep them guessing. Like,
he does seem to be
and he
very
and
happy
he
with that.
chums it up a little bit for the camera. He was doing that here tonight. Specifically with the fact that we started from error 4 and we haven't done that at all. It seems like they're gonna address the change that's happened. Like, there's probably gonna be a change in the format, which
Hmm.
they all clocked, and they were like, I thought it was gonna change after tonight. Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
um, um, there's going to be a change to this, and we'll probably find out at Chambers, at the elimination, or just before the elimination next week.
Okay, fair enough. We're recording on Friday, aren't we?
Hmm.
Okay, good. Thank you. Um,
You still have to give me a time, but that's all.
I do still have to give you time. I was gonna say something else about the end of this episode. Hmm.
Do you want to talk about the targets? Maybe it'll jog your memory.
Yeah, oh, that's exactly what I was going to. I was like, is there something missing that we normally talk about? Yes, targets. I did not write them down. What are they?
Oh, so we went from Era 4 to Era 1. So from Era 4, Casey and Kyland, they both volunteered.
Mhm.
Tori and Devin volunteered. Laurel was chosen by Corey, and Ryan finally volunteered to Banana's Elation. I wouldn't have volunteered. I would have made her throw it back on Bananas.
I was wanting it to be thrown back on
I
bananas.
wouldn't have volunteered. Rachel not picking you. Yeah,
Did somebody whisper don't volunteer?
good. Bananas whispered it to Laurel.
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
and it seemed like he was trying to like force Aviv to be like the one, but Aviv has been the target the same number of times as Laurel. Like Bananas and Laurel
Hmm.
pretending like they're the only people that have had targets on them in their era is what's like kind of pissing me off because Nehemiah has been targeted as many times as Bananas.
Hmm.
Nehemiah has been targeted as many times as Laurel. So has Aviv. Aviv was even thrown into elimination by her former mentor and fresh meat partner Darrell. So
Oh.
like,
But I feel like bananas and Laurel kind of want to have this chip on their shoulder
yeah, for
about
sure.
being,
Like
yeah.
I mean I get it. You can be upset that Ryan isn't volunteering and Ryan isn't performing well. I I understand everybody's side. I'm just gonna pick the side of the people that I like the most, and I like Ryan a little bit better. So I wouldn't have volunteered if you have a uh how do you say if you have a
You
like an
can say como se
advantage.
dice.
Yeah, como se dice. I say that a lot in real life.
Yeah.
If you have an advantage socially in the game, exploit it because it's just a
Yes.
matter of time until that turns over. If Rachel would have gotten eliminated today and Avery was choosing, well, Avery still might have saved Ryan, but it might be a different story, right? If it was Tori, like Bananas, you're probably off the table, and one of us is
Hmm.
automatically going in. What am I supposed to be upset about that? Because you got friends, like you just hated
No,
that
I mean
you're
it's quite
and
literally
really
a very large part of the game.
yeah. And I mean, quite literally, the reason I keep getting saved is because my friends keep ending up in elimination.
I mean, it's yeah. So, but the bananas and Laurel thing made me mad. And oh wait, well, and then Rachel is the only target for Arrow One,
Yes,
obviously.
Rachel is the lone target for the era because she's the lone member of her team.
Oh, poor Rachel.
And next week's episode is called The Era. No, it's called An Era of One.
Oh, well, that's it for this.
That's all. Take us out, Maddie.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the pod. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you
Hmm.
tune into our other series about Love is Blind.
Please.
And if you notice that we're wearing the same outfits in multiple videos, mind your business.
I think they can put two and two together.
Thanks,
uh,
y'all.
Thank you. Bye bye.